As the 2026 war between Iran, Israel, and the United States rages on, it's easy to get lost in the headlines. But behind all the chaos, there's another major power, a quiet player that's shaping the entire conflict from the shadows. And what we're finding out is that a secret alliance is at play that could change, well, everything. So that brings us to the central question. Who is really pulling the strings here? Honestly, the answer to this is about way more than just this one war. It's about the future of global power. So today, we are going to peel back the layers on the deep and often hidden alliance between China and Iran. So here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we're going to follow the money and uncover the so-called ghost fleet that's keeping Iran's economy afloat. Then we'll get into the hidden tech that's giving Iran a kind of digital shield. After that, we'll decode the diplomatic dance China's playing, try to understand their ultimate endgame, and finally, we'll ask the big question, is this powerful partnership starting to show some cracks? All right, first up, the economic lifeline. Let's start with the most tangible connection between these two countries, the money and the oil that keeps Iran's war machine running. You have to understand, this is the absolute bedrock of their relationship. Even with bombs falling and sanctions piling up, the oil trade between China and Iran isn't just surviving, it is thriving. This constant flow of cash is the fuel keeping Iran's engine running. So the question is, how on earth are they pulling this off? Well, it's this huge clandestine operation. They call it the ghost fleet, because these tankers will often just switch off their tracking signals, basically vanishing from global shipping maps. So they'll pick up sanctioned Iranian crude, sail to a hub like Malaysia, conduct these really secretive ship-to-ship transfers out in the middle of the ocean. And then that oil continues its journey to its final and most important customer, China. And all of this, believe it or not, hinges on this one tiny strip of water. The Strait of Hormuz is maybe the most important oil choke point in the entire world. If you control it, you've basically got your hand on the tap of the global economy. And in 2026, Iran did just that. And this move right here, well, this is where the geopolitical game gets really interesting. Iran started collecting tolls for passage, but not in US dollars. Nope. They demanded payment in Chinese yuan. This is a direct challenge to American economic power, because the dollar's dominance in the oil trade has been a cornerstone of its global influence for decades. It's a huge signal of whose currency and whose influence is on the rise. But look, China's support isn't just about cash. Not even close. Let's shift gears from the obvious economic lifeline to the much more covert digital shield, because this is where China's help becomes a true game changer on the actual battlefield. Okay, so the key thing to get here is it's all about control. For years, Iran's reliance on the American GPS system has been a massive vulnerability. In a conflict, the US could just jam the signal or deny access entirely. So by guiding Iran to adopt its own Beidou satellite system, China is effectively removing a huge American advantage and giving Iran a secure, independent way to navigate and target. And the cooperation gets even more hands-on than that. We're seeing reports that China's elite intelligence unit, the Ninth Bureau, is actually operating on the ground in Tehran. Their job? To help Iran hunt down CIA and Mossad agents, and to help plug critical security leaks in their own government systems. It's not just spies and intel, though. We're talking about actual hardware. China has given Iran some of its most sophisticated military tech, including this very advanced radar system. And what this thing can do? Well, it's a total nightmare for American and Israeli pilots. 220 miles. Just think about that. That is the reported range at which this radar can spot America's most advanced stealth aircraft, like the F-35. For Iran, this isn't just a piece of technology. It's an early warning system that completely changes the math of any potential air attack. So, you've got all this going on behind the scenes, right? China is arming and funding one side of the conflict. But publicly, on the world stage, oh, it's a completely different story. They're playing a very different role. This one phrase pretty much sums up China's entire public relations strategy. They're painting themselves as the responsible adult in the room, the calm mediator, while casting the US as erratic and unreliable. And you can see them building this image step by step. They publicly condemn the attacks, they call for ceasefires, and they've even put forward a formal peace plan with Pakistan. And crucially, when the US asked for help to forcibly reopen the Strait of Hormuz, Beijing gave a flat-out no. Okay, so that brings us to the billion-dollar question, right? Why? What's in it for China?
Why are they investing so much political, economic, and military capital into this alliance? What is the ultimate payoff for them?
Well, the first reason is probably the most straightforward one. They're protecting their investment. China has pumped billions into Iran through its massive global infrastructure project, the Belt and Road Initiative, and they've locked in a 25-year strategic partnership. If the Iranian state completely collapses, all of those investments go up in smoke. So job number one is making sure Iran survives.
But there's a second reason, and this one is all about intelligence. This war is basically a front row seat to the future of warfare. It's a live fire laboratory where the Chinese military can watch cutting-edge Western military technology in action, all without firing a single shot themselves. And you better believe they are taking very, very detailed notes. They're studying how U.S. missile defense systems perform under pressure. They're watching how effective stealth fighters really are. They're analyzing American electronic warfare tactics. For them, this intelligence is absolutely priceless, not just for modernizing their own military, but maybe for preparing for a potential future conflict over Taiwan. Now, with all this cooperation, you might think this alliance is rock solid, but it would be a huge mistake to see it as a perfectly smooth partnership, because this alliance, forged in conflict, is definitely showing some signs of strain. Yeah, despite all the help, Iran is making it very clear they are not a puppet. On March 27th, in a real shot across the bow, Iran actually blocked 2 Chinese ships from entering the strait. The message was unmistakable. We control this waterway, and everybody, including our allies, will play by our rules. And, this war is starting to have real costs for China, too. At least one Chinese citizen has been killed, thousands have had to be evacuated, and all this instability threatens China's really deep economic ties with Iran's biggest rivals in the Gulf, like Saudi Arabia and the UAE. It's a very dangerous balancing act for them. So where does that leave us? What are we really looking at here? Is this deep, complex partnership just an alliance of convenience born out of a temporary war? Or are we watching in real time the foundation of a new axis of power being built, one designed to challenge the West and reshape the entire world order for decades to come?